If I'm being completely honest, I think I prefer the Don't Hug Me I'm Scared TV series to the original. I still love the web series and I have a lot of nostalgia for it, but I think the TV series is just better. It looks fantastic, I like the more psychological aspects of it, and the humor really works for me.
What? You're just putting the plates in the bin?
No. Yeah.
I've always wanted to talk about Don't Hug Me I'm Scared on my channel, so today I'll be ranking all 6 episodes of the series. The ranking format is just the easiest way for me to talk about each individual episode and cover all the points I want to cover. Rather than rank all 12 episodes as one show, I've decided to rank them separately because in my mind, they are 2 different shows. So I've also made a video ranking the web series, which you can watch after this one. I have a feeling that this video is going to run much longer than the other one, so I'm going to go ahead and get started.
You don't understand that you're talking to, like, a Michelangelo of my time.
The Puppets is an episode of The Amazing World of Gumball that was made in collaboration with Blink, specifically Blink Industries, who produced Don't Hug Me I'm Scared. Another division of the company, Blink Inc., have made videos with Elton John and Gorillaz that I've talked about before. Becky Sloan, Joe Pelling, and Baker Terry, the big 3 of Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, co-wrote the episode and voiced the puppet characters. I'm a big Gumball fan, and even though seasons 5 and 6 were kind of a slog to get through, I was so hyped for this crossover. Gumball and Don't Hug Me I'm Scared is such a natural fit, and I don't think any other mainstream cartoon would have been able to pull this off. I'm not going to cover it in detail, but the back half of the episode does take place in a very Don't Hug Me I'm Scared-esque world, and it does have the same style and ominous tone as the web series. There was also a mini-series, Waiting for Gumball, that's kind of the same deal. I know it's not that relevant, I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's cool, and it's also some of the only Don't Hug Me I'm Scared related media we got between the web series and the TV series. Except for... Wake up. Wakey Wakey is a now private teaser for the pilot of a version of the TV series that no longer exists. There are some leaked recordings of the pilot, but it was never actually officially released. It was supposed to take place in a town called Clay Hill and feature a rotating cast of characters, at least 15 I assume. It also had more of a political flavor that Becky Sloan described as akin to South Park, with the character Mayor Pigface meant to be a stand-in for the guy that Sebastian Stan movie was about. Overall, it sounds like there was a bunch of executive meddling, nobody was happy with the finished product, and it will probably never see the light of day, which is a shame. It looked expensive.
Go to hell!
Let's get into the actual show, starting with the first episode. I said this like a million times in my video on the web series, but I love all these episodes and consider them to be basically perfect, so competition is stiff. When you think about it, the first episode of a series being ranked last is a good thing because there's nowhere to go but up. First of all, in this series, we have a much longer runtime per episode. At first, I was a little worried. I wasn't sure they'd be able to stretch these stories from 3 minutes to 20, but boy was I wrong. Each episode could have been 2 hours long and I'd be happy. Because we have more time, we're able to see more of these characters and the way they interact. The main trio is much more fleshed out, and so are their relationships with each other. Their dynamic is so strange, I don't think I've ever seen anything else like it. The best way I can describe it is yellow guy is 2D, duck guy is Murdoch, and red guy is Russell. No one is Noodle, that's why they're such a mess. I love the way this series expands on their characters, especially Duck Guy, who is probably my 3rd favorite fictional character of all time. This version of him is like an egotistical maniac who bites people and is maybe a veteran?
I'm not dull. I'm the best one.
Wow, I love him.
I love him!
In case you were wondering, in 2nd place is Snufkin and in 1st place is Murdoch. I don't know, there's just something about little green criminals that really appeals to me, I guess. I'll also say real quick that Duck Guy also reminds me of Daffy Duck, specifically in the Looney Tunes show from like the 2010s.
Your son looks like a girl!
I think they would be friends, or exes who hate each other's guts. I also think it was genius to have the first episode of this show take place in this factory outside of their house. This series improves and expands upon the original in such a natural way. I love the commentary on the workforce and corporate settings, and how Red Guy and Yellow Guy are immediately great at their jobs, with Red Guy failing upwards until he becomes CEO in the span of 9 minutes. This episode is funny, the song is great, the final joke was also used beat for beat in an SNL sketch. What a great start to the series. Also, unemployed Brendan is this show's bread boy. Much like in the web series, episode 6 is the most existential and takes place outside of the world of the series, or perhaps above it. Episode 6 of the TV show is less avant-garde than episode 6 of the web series, and it aims at more of a cohesive story. It takes one of the best and most important aspects of the original, the time loop, and takes that concept even further, really leaning into the idea of these characters being literal and figurative puppets. Just like its web counterpart, this episode gives you just enough information while still keeping you guessing, and at the very end, it rips the answer right out of your hands. The Shredder bit is gold, by the way. It's one of the funniest jokes in the whole show, and what you think is just a throwaway bit ends up being plot relevant in the most devastating way. I know we're obviously never going to get any real answers, because the creators know how much the fans enjoy trying to figure things out, but I like how this series acknowledges that and gives you a lot of food for thought. I liked seeing Yellow Guy's journey up the stairs and the big boys and bigger boys he meets along the way.
Oh, why don't you experiment on each other?
So, would you be keen?
I don't want to have sex with you!
But I think my favorite part of the episode is seeing Red and Duck Guy on their own trying to cope with the power outage. It's a pairing we don't see that often, and... Wait, what are they saying?
You like looking at me?
Yeah, I suppose I do.
Well, I like looking at you too.
This is the most romantic thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think about you all the time.
When I was 12, I watched a man get hit by a bus.
Episodes 5 and 6 both have this inversion of one of our main characters. In episode 6, Yellow Guy becomes a little genius boy and figures out how to get upstairs, and in episode 5, Red Guy becomes more and more irritable and emotional as he tries to find a way out of the house. Because Yellow Guy is usually dumb as a bag of rocks and Red Guy is usually pretty monotone, seeing how they change as they gain consciousness is super cool. In my opinion, episode 5 is more interesting than episode 6 just because everyone's involved and emotions are running so high. Mr. Choo Choo is one of my favorite teachers of the show. Yes, that is his name. When I first watched this episode, I thought his name was Leslie because it says so on his license plate, but no. I love his design, his voice, his special drink, and when he first shows up, there's clearly someone just out of frame who chucks his cane at him. Kinda reminds me of that one movie. There's a cute little animated sequence, and then the trio decides to take charge and leave the house on their own for the very first time, which is kind of a huge shift in the status quo. The road trip sequence is so cute. Honestly, my favorite part of this series is seeing these guys bond and be friends, and I think this episode's ending might be the most interesting and ambitious thing Don't Hug Me I'm Scared has ever done. I was completely shocked. This episode, in my opinion, is the only one that matches the true horror of the web series. Between the foreshadowing, Yellow Guy's dream, and the way everything falls apart, it's so awesome.
You're not an eagle. You're an adult man. I'm an eagle.
Episode 4 may not be all that scary, but it's easily the funniest episode of either series. One of my favorite bits is Duck Guy very sincerely thanking anyone who compliments him.
Hey, nice grip.
Thank you.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
This episode's teacher is Eddie the Eagle, or whatever his name is, who shows up after Duck and Red Guy call Yellow Guy a slur. Warren is so clearly based on a very specific type of guy. We've all met a Warren. And we hate him.
I hate this guy.
What a fantastic clip. You can use that for anything. Also, a teacher trying to give an anti-bullying lesson only to get bullied by his students is such a funny concept. It's like something that would happen to Jacob on Abbott Elementary. The tables kind of turn in this series, and the trio, whether they mean to or not, end up being the ones tormenting the teachers. I'm a big fan of the Brain Friends. That whole sequence actually reminds me of Colin's digital world from episode 4 of the web series. This episode's ending is so perfect. I genuinely love the idea of a worm in your brain being used as a metaphor for insecurities and self-doubt. We all have a worm in our brain. The song is really nice, and we get to see Red Guy in one of the best denim ensembles of all time. I can't choose a favorite. And the ending fight scene is a standout of the whole show. It's only heard and not seen, which makes it even better. One last thing before we move on. Warren and Shrignold would make a fantastic couple. They're evil, they're bugs, and I can't think of a third thing.
You're telling me Dan Marino has a son named Tambourine?
Yeah.
Speaking of third things, episode 3! There's so much good stuff here. Let's start with Chuddle Dollops. What a fantastic name for a fictional chip, and Duck Guy calls them Chuddy D's. I always imagined they would have a similar texture to those shrimp chips. Also, lasagna flavor? What is it with this show and lasagna? I love Lily and Todney. They're so weird. Honestly, they might be my favorite teachers. I find it so interesting that out of all the puppets in this show, Lily and Todney are the only humanoid figures. Which brings me to my favorite song of all time, What Does Family Mean to Me and My Family? Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared has always been so good at slowly escalating things throughout the course of a song. Usually it just gets creepier, but this one just goes berserk. The song starts out with normal things like a family should be friends, they should give each other advice, and then it slowly devolves into you're not a real family unless you have a landline. I go back and rewatch this episode all the time just to see Todney going ham on the tambourine. The trio decides they're not a family, they're a clump, and they all go over to Lily and Todney's place to see exactly how a family is supposed to work. They drink some sludge, they play Dodge or Dare. I love the idea of a home video having an extended cut. Throughout the second half of the episode, we see these cards throughout with different family values embroidered onto them, which I love. It adds structure to the plot, and it looks like something you would see in someone's home. Also, this episode sets up one of my favorite details in the whole show, and I never see anyone talking about it. In episode 4, when Colin says that freelancers deserve to die, you can hear Yellow Guy say,
They're on fire.
because in this episode, episode 3, Lily and Todney tell him that when their Uncle Terry died,
He went on fire.
Oh, and I have to talk about Roy because his arc is so crazy. In the original series, he was implied to be the mastermind behind everything, with the goal of manipulating and torturing his son. In the TV show, he shows up halfway through the season, speaks for the first and only time, eats a bunch of chicken and also people, then leaves, never to be seen again except for that one time. Roy isn't in charge anymore, he's just another pawn, and I guess he's a better dad this time around, depending on how you look at it. The episode ends with a genuinely sweet message about found family. It gets kind of subverted, just like in episode 4 and even episode 1, but this one is by far the funniest joke to end on. It's so out of nowhere. This episode could have easily taken the #1 spot, it just depends on how I'm feeling on a given day. And on this given day, it takes second place.
So without further ado,
Let's go!
With a show like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, it makes so much sense to have an episode centered around death that I'm shocked it didn't happen sooner. It's such a natural lesson for a show like this to teach. And episode 2 is a surprisingly earnest attempt at exploring grief and the afterlife. It's interesting seeing the clump not understand death and get excited for the funeral, including Duck Guy, who the funeral is for. I love the song about getting things ready for the big day. They must be Big Chance the Rapper fans. I know I keep on saying this, but the shepherd's pie bit is one of my favorite jokes in the show, as well as the name on Duck Guy's headstone being David. It's just like the funniest name for it to be.
Why does it say
David! Huh? That's his name. He's David!
Goodbye to you.
David!
The commentary in this episode is really neat. The idea of death as personal time for you to sit in the ground, fully conscious, eternally reflecting on your life, is such a neat concept, but it's also kind of scary. There's also the group of grievers who show up uninvited, acting like they knew David when they didn't. I love the way this guy says the word sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
And Yellow Guy and Red Guy both express their grief in different ways. It's all very cartoonish, but it still feels rooted in something real and relatable. I really love Yellow Guy talking to the audience and asking them questions, which he also did in episode 1. It feels like a real children's show. Oh, and the lamp is back. Some of the teachers from the web series make cameos, but other than Colin, this lamp has more lines than anyone else, which is so strange. And even though he's supposed to be dead, Duck Guy is totally not cooperating. Not a day goes by that I don't think about,
I drank a milkshake during the service.
Well, you shouldn't really have done that.
I feel like I have to mention Stain Edwards, the forever boy, who's meant to kind of replace Duck. They're not my favorite character, but I do admire their sense of wonder, and their song is pretty good, especially considering we didn't get a song from the teacher this episode. It gets stuck in my head all the time. And so does the song Duck Guy made on the computer. Oh my god, it's incredible. I'm not even joking, it sounds like a Gorillaz song.
When you meet a businessman, you must shake him by the hand.
It sounds like one of the Human Super Deluxe tracks, but, you know, good. I really do think this is the best episode of the show, and maybe my favorite of either series. I can see how you would disagree, because this episode is probably the least scary, save for the very end, But this episode checks all the boxes for me. It has character interaction, great songs, it looks beautiful, it's funny, it's a little spooky, and it explores its concept in such a unique and heartfelt way. I love it, and I think it's the best. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you liked me, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you want, you can even turn notifications on so you'll be the first to know the next time I'm online. I don't want people going around saying I'm not online. Anyways, it's gonna be all from me. I've got to get things ready for the special day. Bye!
Well, F is for friendship, cause a family is friends. Me and my sister are pretty good friends. A is for advice, a family gives